Storytelling is the lifeblood for any business within any industry when developing its approach to advertising and marketing. Easy enough. Making sure that it is authentic and engaging is a different challenge entirely. Hey, welcome back everybody. Our guest today is Rob Brown. Rob is a media producer for Bandit Industries, a mid-Michigan based manufacturer of high-quality tree care and recycling equipment who's been servicing customers around the world for over 40 years. During our talk with Rob, he explains his early life as a creative kid in search of acceptance, events as a young adult that altered his path, learning to have the courage to walk through doors that open for you, and a career change that led to his discovery of opportunities to connect and create with individuals across the country while building a career within the world of a blue-collar industry with endless stories to tell. Rob was awesome to have on, and we think you're really going to enjoy the episode.
All right, so here we are, American Worker Podcast. This is episode number 3. We got Rob Brown here from Bandit Industries. We're going to learn about his journey, going to learn about everything he does for Bandit, and just hear some stories. And yeah, man, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So, Rob, what do you do at Bandit?
So my official title is media producer. So I work on the marketing team. We have a pretty lean marketing team. I do all of the videography and photography for all of our materials, whether that's print materials. We have a pretty large and active YouTube channel, social media, that sort of thing. And then we've got a graphic designer. We've got someone who specializes in all our trade show stuff. And then we have a marketing manager. And then we've got someone who is responsible for coordinating with all of our dealers across the country and actually around the world. So,
okay.
So I'm the content creator. So all the pictures that are in any Bandit materials I take, any of the video stuff that we use. So one of the cool parts of my job is I get to travel around the country, meeting with our customers, recording their stories. Then I get to bring all that stuff home and edit it and put it out to the world. So super fun job. I love to tell people, I get paid very well to make art for a living. And I get to do that
That's incredible.
And I get to do that in mid-Michigan, in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. There are not a lot of opportunities to do that, to make art for a living in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. So I feel very, very grateful that I wound up where I am. And I really love what I do.
That's awesome. Well, Alma Tire's been doing business with Bandit, basically since Bandit started building shippers.
Mm-hmm.
And the relationship that we have had with Bandit, the company Bandit has gone through some changes, since it started out building that one wood chipper in that one garage. But we've always had a great relationship with them, and with Morbark too,
sure,
of course, right?
Yeah.
But it's just great. To be able to see what Bandit has done over the past, 15 years that I've been at Alma Tire, even, and get sort of not exactly a front row seat, but maybe a 5th or 6th row seat.
Yeah.
Just seeing everything that's going on out there. It's super, super cool.
Yeah.
I've got a great deal of admiration for both of those companies and the way that they are able to create so many jobs for people in mid-Michigan and, and to be able to provide a job like you've got, which is, like you said, a very unique opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like, just from what I know and have learned from you about Alma Tire, just a lot of shared values, a company that exists in a small community that employs mostly folks from that small community, that understands itself to be an integral part of that community, and really tries to do right by its employees. Bandit is now an employee-owned business. It started as a family business, and 5 or 6 years ago, right before I started, I think 2 years before I started, so maybe 7 years now, as an employee-owned business. So just rededicating itself to taking care of folks in the mid-Michigan community,
Yeah.
And what's also so cool, and being able to do that, but knowing that our stuff is literally all over the planet.
Oh, I know.
Whether it's Morbark or Bandit, there's enough work to go around. There's enough people that need this stuff. But the fact that we are a global brand from a tiny little town, Remus, Michigan. It's kind of an exciting thing to be a part of.
It's amazing. And, like I will like, if I'm traveling, maybe I go down to Florida, or I was in Phoenix a little while ago for a conference, and I love to be able to see, and it's the exact same thing with Bandit or Morbark chippers, because you'll go somewhere else in the country,
Yep.
and maybe I'm in, like one time I was in Savannah, Georgia. Me and my brother we're sitting there waiting for a flight out of Savannah, Georgia. We're on the riverfront, having a couple beers, and this tour bus goes by, right? It's an Indian Trails tour bus. You know who puts the tires on for Indian Trails? Alma Tire.
That's so awesome.
And there are retreads too. So, it's something that we actually manufactured. But I said to my brother, who wasn't working here at the time, but I was like, check it out, man. Savannah, Georgia. Those are my tires.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I get the same
we
thing.
did that. And we do the same thing. I mean, seriously, and I'll be with my dad or uncle or whatever, and we'll see a Bandit chipper out there.
Yep.
And we're like, oh, that's us. We identify with it. It's really cool. I will never ever get tired of that feeling.
Yeah. I've got family members that will take pictures of the chipper that's in their neighbor's yard. Like, look, there's a Bandit here.
Yeah. Cool. Can you get some good video? Yeah.
Like, well, they're not wearing any safety gear, so no, I can't get any video. Can't use any of that.
No, people would never bend the rules of PPE.
No, of course.
Out in the wild. Absolutely not.
Oh.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Well, I mean, like you said, you've worked yourself into an amazing opportunity. I want to hear the story. Like, where'd you grow up? How did you start from Ithaca, Michigan, and your history, and how you ended up doing what you're doing now for Bandit?
Sure. Yeah. So I was born in Ithaca. So I've been I don't feel like a mid-Michigan native, but I absolutely am. I was born in Ithaca. My family has a long history there. My grandpa was the mayor of Ithaca for a while. Nice. My aunt and uncle still live there and are deeply involved in the community. I went to every one of those Ithaca State Championship football teams at Ford Field. That was like my daughter's first 5 years of life.
Down at the Silver Dome,
we go to the Silver Dome.
Yep.
So we spent a lot of Thanksgivings at the Silver Dome. But then when I was in elementary school, my dad decided to leave architecture, which was what he had gone to school for, and become a pastor. And so we moved to Kentucky, while he went to school for that for a couple of years. And then he got his first church in Jackson, Michigan, near Jackson, Michigan. So that's where I grew up, elementary school sort of thing. And trying to get to where I am now, you have to understand getting into the career I'm in now, you have to understand how I got into rollerblading.
Yes.
So
not on my bingo card for this show, but I'm so glad
I've never made this connection before, but you have to thank Mighty Ducks for me getting to where I am.
Okay. All right.
Because I'm in elementary school. I'm hanging out at my cousin's house one summer. They lived in the Detroit area, and we watched Mighty Ducks for the first time. And I am immediately hooked to that movie. Like I can see myself there. So this is a little bit of an aside. My biggest, like, what do you want to say? The shadow side of me, I think, for most of my life has been feeling like I don't belong, or feeling like I'm not good enough. And watching a movie that was like about a bunch of kids who aren't good enough becoming really, really good at something together really spoke to me. And I thought I could see myself in them being like, if I take up hockey, which no one that I know plays, I could become as good as them.
I can rise to the top.
Their transformation was so fast, I thought for sure. So immediately.
Yeah, it was like, I think an hour and 46 minutes.
An hour and 46 minutes.
Time.
And
yeah,
the state champions.
Took no time at all.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So my cousins had rollerblades. I immediately strapped rollerblades to my feet and started trying to skate outside their house. We played roller hockey. We watched probably that movie 6 times in one weekend. And I immediately decided I am going to play hockey. And, Michigan, most of the time, I didn't know how to skate. So I had to figure out how to skate. So I strapped on some rollerblades, wound up playing hockey for a few years. It was not the Mighty Ducks story. I was never all that good because I didn't start when I was 3, which is what you have to do to be good at hockey, really. But got into rollerblading, and that just kind of became something that I did all the time. So then in high school, we moved to Lakeview. There wasn't a lot to do in Lakeview. So my friends and I kind of made our own fun. I was big into music. I was really involved in bands. So I was in a band with my friends in high school. But then this is like the mid 90s.
Yeah.
And like skateboarding and aggressive inline skating were kind of really coming online as a cool thing to do.
Grinding was a big part of that.
We ground so many rails. That's true.
Yeah.
No, but some kids, like these skater kids at my school, were in a shop class and they built some ramps and then put them out on the tennis court. So I got some new rollerblades. I actually bought like the rollerblades for going off ramps and grinding rails and things. And my friends and I got into that. And a deep part of that culture is video. Like you film yourself skating.
Okay.
And you make these edits of your cool tricks.
Yes.
And so my family never had a lot of money, but my uncle, who worked at Gartool in Alma, he retired from Gartool. He done that for his whole life.
Another amazing Mid-Michigan company.
Family-based Mid-Michigan company. He had a camcorder, an on-the-shoulder camcorder, and it kind of passed down to my family. So I started taking that camcorder out when we would skate and would film ourselves doing tricks, and then I would edit it together. I would take the camcorder in a VHS deck and I would play like little clips from the camcorder into the VHS deck. And then once that was together, I would then run it back to the camcorder, but I would have like a stereo playing some ska music next to it.
My
some
God.
5 Iron Frenzy, some Supertones.
I am getting so much more than I bargained for out of this deal today. This is amazing.
And then we'd do silly stuff. We would film title sequences for these videos. We would make them like a full scale. And I still have these VHS tapes, which is so much fun to watch with my kids now. But I'm
sure they think they're really cool. I'm like,
in a very retro sort of.
Yeah, they're like, wow, this is
right,
pretty quaint.
Oh, but so that was my introduction to film and to editing and just trying to tell a story and make stuff look cool. And one of the remarkable achievements of that period of my life was some teacher saw this, and like, you know how you'd have like, we called it Channel 1, to be like this time period. You remember Channel 1?
I remember. Okay. I haven't heard that one in a while. Yeah.
So
the
homeroom Channel 1.
Gotta get there for Channel 1 News. Yes. Yep.
So some teacher at the school saw this, thought it was really cool, and played it for the whole school during Channel 1. So my skate video was broadcast to the entire school.
Popularity.
Instant.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's how I got into video. That was my first kind of bite of it. And then went to college at CMU. I was one of those people who had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. I was really smart, second in my class. I was captain of the football team. I was, the section leader of the percussion in marching band.
Nothing going for you.
Nothing going for me, But like that kind of like, and it sounds, you never know what somebody's going through. And like that, like there's so many things I could do. I don't know what I should do.
Sure.
Like there was not one driving passion of my life. Like I said before, I think my driving passion was I want to stand out in some way. I want to be somebody that people look at and think there's a cool guy, which is not really a great way to live. And I've learned that subsequently. So I was looking, I applied at Michigan, was accepted there. I applied at Northwestern and was accepted there. And then I applied at Central Michigan, which seems like a little bit of an odd man out with those. But the reason I wanted to go to Michigan was because I wanted people to know I went to Michigan.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense.
No, you know what? I remember when I was in high school, because like you can get this feeling, and especially when you have this feeling of like, maybe you don't belong, right? And you want to really bad. I can relate. There's this thing inside you that you want to show that you're good enough. You're good enough too.
Right.
Like, I could be here if I wanted to be. Right.
Yeah.
And I had already gotten accepted to Michigan State, and I knew that that's where I was going. Like, I didn't have much of a plan, but I knew at least that much.
Right.
And I made sure to apply to Michigan also, because I had friends that were going to Michigan, and there's already this like, this is before even the little brother comments that are now. Yeah, I'm not bitter in any way, but like it is what it is, right?
Yes,
and
there's an air of superiority.
Sure. Yeah. And I just wanted to be able to say, well, I could I could have.
Right. Yeah.
And that was the only reason.
Exactly.
So yeah, but I agree. It's not in one way it drives you to do things. And I think that's the benefit, but yeah, it can be a little unhealthy too. And it's something that you need to kind of square up with a little bit. Yeah.
So through the course of that decision of like, where am I going to go to school? I don't know what I would even study. I started coming to CMU for percussion camps. There was at this time in the early 90s, all through the 90s, the CMU Percussion Ensemble was a world-renowned group. Like, you might not have heard of them, but like they would literally fill Rose Arena with like standing room only in Rose Arena for these concerts. You know about?
So, yes, this percussion ensemble up at CMU was led by Robert Honer, I think was the guy's name.
Wow. Yes.
And I know this because it's crazy how, these connections, but I was an extreme band nerd for a while. Yeah. And my teacher in Alma, his name was Dave Zerby.
Dave Zerby.
You know that name?
I know Zerby.
Yep. And Dave Zerby was like, I looked at this guy. I mean, I admired him so much. He was so cool. I was not a drummer, but Dave Zerby was so cool.
Yeah.
And
zooted cool. Still does probably.
He does.
He's still at Alma College, I think. I think that's where he is now.
He's an amazing guy, dude. And family guy, incredibly musician.
Yeah.
But he would talk about, I don't think I'm going out on a limb here by saying that Bob Honer was like one of his mentors.
Absolutely.
And I remember when Bob Honer passed away, and they were doing a tribute concert at Rose Arena.
Right.
And I went to that concert.
I was there. I was on stage at that concert.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I remember that. I have this memory of this concert. It'll never leave me. And okay, so what I don't remember is if Dave Zerby was the guy on the set, like on the drum set for this one particular song, but I think he was. Anyway, they did like this Santana song or something like that.
Yeah, with the whole steel band.
And it was like, it blew my mind. I was just like, oh my gosh. And I remember this guitar player.
Yeah.
They had an electric guitar player.
Yeah.
There's probably video of that
you
concert
can find it
somewhere.
on YouTube right now.
Well, I'm going to go back and look, but I am 99% sure this dude was on like this riser and playing a white Fender Stratocaster. Okay. And I was like, I was like, I want to be...
All those percussion instruments, that's what you wanted to do?
Well, I mean, you can see my wall,
but yeah.
I'm not coordinated enough to drum, but I was like, I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So that also actually had a really big influence on me.
Yeah.
Dave Zerby did then that concert and all this stuff. Yeah.
So that was exactly what happened. I went to these percussion camps and they would do these concerts these were at Warner Hall. And I would see them play. I would see the audience just on their feet.
Yeah.
It was great. Like if you have no idea. When you think about a percussion ensemble, you think about like 6 people on marimbas playing music that no one understands to a half-empty small auditorium.
No.
This is like rock show.
Yes.
Lights, Stage Right Staging, another great mid-Michigan company.
Yes, yeah.
Insane. And I saw that and I said, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And so I did. That's what ultimately made me choose to come to CMU. I wanted to play with those guys. I had no idea what my life would be like after that or what I would do for work or how I would make money. I just knew I wanted to play with those guys because they were the coolest guys.
This is the thing to do for me right now,
100%.
For sure. Yes.
So I had enrolled at Michigan. I was enrolled at CMU. And like halfway through the summer, I finally made the decision I'm going to CMU. And so I came to CMU. I was in the percussion program. I went in for my first lesson with Robert Honer, and he said, Rob, I'm feeling sick today. And that was the last time I ever saw him.
Are you kidding?
He died my freshman year of college. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that whole group of people that that was my world. Those people were completely wrecked. It was like your grandpa died or your dad died for some of them.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember it was a really big deal.
Yeah, it was a really big deal. And a lot of those people, almost all of them, left CMU. I mean, I went and auditioned down in Texas, in Oklahoma City. A lot of people went to Texas, Oklahoma City. A large cohort came to Alma College because Dave Zerby started teaching at Alma College and kind of has transplanted what was at CMU to Alma now. But so I was in that place of like, what in the world am I going to do? But through that time had gotten involved at a church in town because a friend of mine from high school had started attending this church and got involved there. And a big part of their services was video production. And I, just getting to know people, they found out that I had this time in high school when I did the video and said, hey, you might want to do something like that. So got involved doing that. That's where I first learned how to edit on a computer to shoot digital video and not like VHS camera.
Patch and tape together.
Yep, using
from
Adobe
one reel
Premiere,
to another. Yeah.
Adobe After Effects. When there was not even a second version, it was just Premiere. Well, not even Premiere Pro yet. So I made the decision to stay in Mount Pleasant to keep being a part of that church, and then switch my major. Because again, I'm still like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm thinking this time, maybe I'll work for a church. Maybe that's what I want to do. And so I switched my major to religious studies because I, was part of this church. I was super into that sort of thing. I still am. My faith is a really big part of my life. I graduated from CMU with a religious studies degree. What are you going to do with that?
Okay.
Other than have really interesting conversations, Again, my whole life is not like, it's not been a planned. I think I said this in the little questionnaire. It's like happy accidents. It's just kind of like walking through the open door.
Oh,
I am not the kind of person who's like had this plan marked out. And I know there are people like that. That's just not in me. I am so much. I don't know if you know the Enneagram. Are you familiar with the Enneagram?
Oh,
okay.
My brother.
Okay. We don't need to get there. I'm an Enneagram 8. I'm a gut feel like.
I'm an 8.
Are you an 8?
I'm an 8.
Okay.
Dude. And when I got that description, I was reading it and I'm like, so my wife took the Enneagram test a long time ago, and she's a 1. And people listening to this that don't know Enneagram are going to be like, "What are?"
And probably some of the people who are listening to it and know the Enneagram are like, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
why does everything come back to the
Enneagram?" It always does.
So my fiance will be saying that if she listens to this.
So she's a 1, and she was always like, "You need to take the test. You need to take the test." Well, I've been going through these courses, and that was part of it. So that was what wasn't my wife suggesting it, although it probably should have been. But I was going through this course, so I took the test and I read it, and she's like, "So what do you think?" And I'm like, not a really flattering description of what what an 8 is, but you kind of break it down, and it's like, well, I mean, yeah. But it does shed a lot of light into a lot of things.
Absolutely, I think it's a super helpful. And as an aside, I get the concern like putting people in a box, but for me the benefit has been like learning to see people as not like better or worse than me, just different than me.
Yeah,
like understanding my fiance, for example, is a 3, and she's a hardcore 3.
Yeah,
but like that means she's going to want to talk about work a lot because work and performance really matter to her. That's not bad. It doesn't mean because I don't care what my boss thinks about me. That sort of like that's part of what she is looking for. Yeah. And it helps me understand that it's different, not as better or worse. So,
this Enneagram, TJ? No,
you should look into it.
Yeah, we'll talk later.
It's yes.
Yeah, but it's very detailed and whatever. But you said something about like doors open and you just walk through them.
Yeah. Yep.
And that really resonated with me, man, because I'm like, just like when I came to Alma Tire, the door that was open was a tire shop.
Yeah.
I didn't know what other doors were going to open later. And so many things you can't know. Right. But if you're looking, doors open all over for people all the time. And so many people don't walk through them.
Yeah.
And to be fair, some doors you shouldn't walk through because there's some opportunities that maybe aren't the right ones. But to at least be open to that idea, no, maybe your life won't be this linear, I mean, you're going to have to deal with some ups and downs and all these things, but you're going to anyway. And just to be able to have the willingness to say, you know what, maybe this wasn't in the plan, but this is an opportunity for me, and I'm gonna explore it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're just walking through the open doors. I got a job while I was a student at CMU at the College of Health Professions, which had just been built, was just kind of starting. But part of what they were doing was building a 4-camera studio in their building to kind of create content for their faculty members. A friend of mine worked there, got me an interview. Because I had these video skills, I was hired to start doing some video stuff as a student. They saw what I could do. And by the time it came to graduation, what am I going to do with my religious studies degree? Didn't have to think about it because they created a position for me and I just walked right into it.
There you go.
So until I interviewed at Bandit 5 years ago, I'd never had an actual job interview in my entire life. So I was at CMU for 15 years, and that was a good experience. But then 2020 comes around, COVID happens, universities take a hit, and CMU had a massive layoff, and I got laid off in the spring of 2020. And this was kind of like a critical moment in my life of saying, you know, again, I mentioned my faith has been a huge part of my life, of kind of me having this conversation with God that was, I've said all these things about how I trust you, but this is my chance to actually like believe that all that stuff that I've said. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to choose right now not to worry at all. I'm going to choose that you've got me and that this is going to be okay.
It's hard to do,
It's hard to do,
especially as an Enneagram 8.
Yeah. But I, for whatever reason, I had the grace to make that resolution. I was given, because of how long I'd worked there, I think 3 months of time to continue working before my end date. And on the day I was done at CMU, I started my job at Bandit, which was a job I never, ever would have looked for university is a weird world, man.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend anybody work at a university. It's just its own little insular world that doesn't, when you're working at a university, you don't imagine that there's like a better world out there.
Better in what way?
In the regard of like, so for one thing, compensation, like universities pay pittance compared to like most businesses.
Okay.
There's no real incentive for most employees in a university beyond you get to work for this great university. I think, yeah, it's just.
So it's like, it's not an environment where, I think what you're saying is like, if you really want to stretch your legs and really see what you can do,
right,
and maybe you knock it out of the park and you create all this value, and the university is just like,
right,
great job.
The university, I think the feeling at a university is that the university will always exist. You are now part of something that will last forever, and so the incentive to like improve or to add value just doesn't really exist. There's no financial compensation to do so. There's not this, I mean, like with federal funding, like you just assume CMU is going to be in Mount Pleasant forever. Like there's no, like, you know, the feelings that a small business has, where like, we need to come in here. We need to do our best work because it's a very real possibility that we will cease to exist.
Yeah.
That attitude is not there. Yeah. So I was not aware of other opportunities. I was not imagining other opportunities. But when my hand was forced to do so and I had to start looking for other opportunities, I found this company just down the road that pays a living wage to make video content like exclusively and just do that. And so I feel really, really fortunate that I found that. I would not have found this job if I hadn't been forced to, you know, and that's just, I think in some ways, part of how I had been living up till that point was just kind of taking what had been given. That's why, you know, this idea of knowing your worth. I didn't have the capacity to understand that I was worth more. I didn't know that what the upper limits were, what other people in my field were being paid for the similar work, you know?
Sure.
But I think coming out of that and realizing, holy cow, there are a lot more opportunities than I realized. I think that's allowed me in this new part of my career to be able to advocate a lot more for myself, to know what I'm worth, to ask for what I feel like I'm worth. And it's nice to find places where they agree with that and are like, yeah, you're worth that much. So
how does a person, because like I'll hear people say the same thing, like know your worth.
mm-hmm.
And I think that can get twisted into a little bit where like someone's like, I know my worth. And it's like, but do you?
Yeah.
Or are you maybe like, are you maybe like overestimating?
Yeah.
I mean, because that can happen too.
That can absolutely happen too. And I know I feel like all the advice you can ever give in life is like appropriate for some audiences and then inappropriate for other audiences.
Yeah, totally.
You know? I think it just depends on where you're coming out of,
But what makes what makes a person, do you think, like valuable and like to an employer?
Yeah.
Like if we were trying to like talk to some young guys or girls or something like that, and we're like, hey, know your worth, but make sure you are actually worth
yes,
what you want to be. How does a person build that? How does a person build their own stock? You know, and if someone says, man, I want to be worth $80,000 a year.
Yeah.
I'm worth $80,000 a year. Well, maybe you are, maybe you're not.
Right.
But like, what are the things that in your mind, having gone through this experience, like, how does a person, if they want to be worth more, how do they get to that point? Like, is it having a degree? Is
right.
it,
It's certainly not having a degree. And I think that's something that moving into a more blue collar field has absolutely shown me. And I feel bad for my daughters right now because I'm really down on college education, to be honest with you.
I mean, it's good for some people,
it's
right?
good for some people, but the value, it's so utterly overvalued. And that's blinders have been ripped off me like Paul on the Damascus Road in that regard. Like I am 100% certain that you do not need a college degree to make a good living. You certainly don't need a college degree to find meaningful work.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the most meaningful work is work that you do not need a degree for at all. I don't need a degree to do what I do. People just want to know, can I make stuff look good? They don't care where I went to school or if I went to school. I didn't learn anything that I do at school. I'm not going to say that my college experience wasn't a positive thing. I went through a lot. I learned a lot. I met a lot of people. My character was shaped in that. But your character can be shaped in all sorts of ways. You don't have to go into debt to shape your character. But as far as like what things in life actually add value, I think it is education, obviously in some regard. But more and more, that education is something that you can do yourself. You don't need to go into debt to pay someone to teach you something. I've learned way more on YouTube than I know I would have learned in a college class. There's so many more voices. You can get so much more information when one teacher is sitting in front of a class of 100 students giving one version of one message. There's value in that, but it's incredibly limited because of all the people that person has to talk to, the limited amount of time. If you can go on YouTube and find 6 different perspectives on the same topic, listen to them all in 40 minutes, you'll learn as much as you could have learned in a week of a college course in a lot of ways. So education is absolutely something. I think skill is it, just getting out and doing the work. You can't underestimate that. But again, that's something that can happen, I think, a lot of ways. For me, it was just skate videos.
It was
volunteering
videos
to do video at church for free for years. That sort of thing. There's no substitute for getting your hands on something and doing it. I think some of the value though just does come with time, and it's the character side of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
It's who you're becoming, like inside, like who you're around, the influences in your life, the struggles that you go through and how you manage those. I think those are the indispensable experiences that really make you worth something.
Person worth having on the team.
Worth having on the team.
And is going to be able to contribute and
right.
And provide good work and also a good viewpoint. And
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a tough one though.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I think you're right. Like there are some things that are just sort of universally, regardless of which door you walk through, and how the path is going to, how the path is going to twist and turn and whatever. I mean, there are some things that you can do that are going to add to your worth, that are going to add to your person, your character, no matter what.
Right.
I was describing before we got on here about like my time in New Mexico, and I worked down there for a year and a half, making very little money. Well, you can look at that a couple different ways. I mean, yeah, did I put a lot of money in my bank account? No, actually watched money drain
Right.
out of my bank account. But the whole time I was still working with the intention of wanting to learn.
Yeah.
And not just learn that field, but just learning how to work and learning how to get along with other people and learning how to get up early for a job. And, all these things that really helped to, I didn't know I was going back to Alma Tire. I didn't know I was ever going to be in charge of people,
Right.
but I had that experience of working for other people
Mhm.
that helped me, I think, become a better boss.
Yeah.
But had I been down there and just sort of floated and just and not really engaged,
Right.
there would have been no investment really made into the person that I was going to eventually become.
Right.
So yeah, I totally get it.
Well, I see the tension we're walking here. You got the people who overvalue themselves or come almost entitled into a situation.
Yeah.
Thinking they deserve something that they don't. I don't know what you do about those people. I think they just need to, have the rude awakening sometimes.
I think those people eventually figure it out.
They will. And that's the
Yeah.
good thing about this life is we all eventually probably figure it out. We just take different ways to get there.
Yeah.
But for the people who are sitting in a job they're not happy with, knowing there's something or feeling like there's something more, I think my feeling now is there probably is.
Yeah.
You look for something else. There probably is something else. It could be better than you imagined if you just lift your eyes up and look around a little bit. But,
And don't be afraid because yeah, I mean, things will work out.
Yeah.
God will provide.
Yeah.
And sometimes something that looks like, when you're going from that university world and it's like, man, this blue collar, they're building wood chippers. I don't know,
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, dang, this is actually pretty sweet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So doing what you do at Bandit,
Mhm.
you're going all over the country
Mhm.
and shooting video. I mean, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So when I got to Bandit, it was
there somebody already doing this at Bandit?
Yeah, so Bandit has always had, again, this is crazy, this job exists in mid-Michigan, but Bandit has always had a pretty active role for video, and that makes sense because what we sell is very expensive, and people want to see it run before they, spend $500,000, $100,000 on a chipper or horizontal grinder. So, and we've got customers all over the world. So, just having a role for video has been an important part of our marketing strategy for a long, long time. I like to think that when I stepped into the role, I kind of took it to a new level. That was my goal coming in, was I want to create as many videos in my first year as have been created in the last 5 years. That's what I wrote on my board. I wrote down I went to the YouTube channel. I wrote down the number that had been created in the last 5 years, and that was my goal for 1 year of production.
How many videos was that?
I'd say 35 or something.
35 in 1 year.
Yeah, I think it might have been more. And these are, so at Bandit, we do all sorts of video. I'm responsible for making all of our safety and instructional content. That stuff takes a lot longer to do.
Yeah.
We've got to go back and forth on that a lot because there's legal stuff because people are going to be watching this stuff and then working with our chippers. And we got to make sure all that stuff's just right. And that stuff's changing all the time. We have to do that for all of the models and makes that we have of our hand-fed chippers, our stump grinders, our horizontal grinders, all that stuff. But then I do the more marketing side of stuff as well. All the promotional content, all of our testimonial videos. So it's mostly the testimonial content that takes me around the country. But what I was going to say is that when I came into the role, it was kind of one of the nice parts about it was just having the freedom to really make it what I want. And for me, the testimonial content, I feel like is my stamp, my what I'm leaving at Bandit is that library of testimonial content.
You're a little more, I mean, it's content that's a little more open to your own creativity, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, when you're putting together a training video, it's like, okay, well, you got to hit all these points, whatever, but you could go somewhere in South Carolina and you're meeting this guy and you're like, this dude is a character.
Yes.
And I know how to work with this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's my bent. I think that's something else that I bring to it is the storytelling bent. I love the people, and that's absolutely, when I think about what I want to do with video at Bandit, it's put the people first. Because the machines are cool, but everybody can make a good machine, and that's something that I hear from my customers all the time. Machines are great. And, all these machines, all these brands are probably about the same, but the people behind the brand, that stand behind the brand, that's what I care about. That's what they care about. But people are just so much more interesting than machines. Machines are cool for a minute, but people are endlessly interesting, and their stories are also unique and different. And that's what I've tried to do with all of my work at Bandit, is put the human element first. And so, and I think I default in my filmmaking style to like a documentary sort of style. That's the stuff I love to watch. And that's how I kind of go about it. So in all that promotional content, I'm traveling around the country, visiting with our customers at their job sites, almost always interviewing business owners, operators, just, and something that I try to do always is let half of the video be their story. So I start, every one of those interviews asking them about themselves, how they got into the business, what sets their business apart. And in the best videos that I make, the Bandit equipment is just the solution to a problem in their story. And the whole video is their story. And it's just rewarding for me. I love doing it. One of my favorite things about creating content, that kind of content, is sending it to the customer at the end when it's done and just hearing them rave about it, share it on their personal social media, and then watch their family just fill up the comments with congratulations for them. Like, I just almost get emotional thinking about that, because these guys and girls have put in, this is their life.
It's their life's work.
This is their life.
Yep.
And for a lot of them, it's a generational thing. Like, these are second generation, third generation people keeping alive a family tradition, a family business, and in a pretty thankless environment. We all know that blue collar trade stuff don't get the recognition that they're due almost all the time. And to see these folks getting the praise of their family and friends on social media for, appearing in this video and sharing their story, I don't need anything more than that. That's like just the best.
That's really cool.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. What do you see in the future for, like, what do you want to do with your capacity at Bandit? And I mean, like, you must have ideas of, like, man, we're going to be, in a year from now, I'd really love to be doing this.
Yeah.
Where do you kind of see it going?
That's, again, my life is like this one where I am so much more of an in the moment type of guy. That's just my personality. I'm often focused. I'm a really bad friend to friends who have moved away, because I am really bad at keeping up with them. It's like the people in front of me are where my focus is. So if I think about that, I mean, I love doing the testimonial stuff. We're always making new equipment. We're always, modifying products. So there's always going to be more stories to tell. I would love to get overseas. We've got a big customer base in Australia.
That's what I was thinking.
England.
Is I'm like, man, you say Bandit's a worldwide company, and it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Say Australia, there's a lot there.
Yeah, we've got a big dealer in Australia, in the UK as well, and then South America. We're getting a lot more stuff down there. I think
trees all over the world.
Trees all over the world.
Ship them up, baby.
That's right. Gotta ship them. I guess I really enjoy what I do. I don't feel like what I'm doing needs to become something more. I just really like going to work each day. On a Sunday, I don't get the Sunday scaries. I get the Sunday, like, I'm really looking forward to editing that video on Monday.
Yeah.
Which is a great place to be, because I talk to so many folks who are in the more corporate world. My fiance's in sales. Their lives are just stress all the time, and I feel so fortunate to have a job that for me is just, I really am genuinely looking forward to doing it every day. And people are my thing, like just meeting just hanging out with people, I'm a gatherer. I love to get people together in a room and just hang out. We've got groups of friends on a Monday night at the Bird in Mount Pleasant where we'll just get to, and I love just getting people who are totally different from each other to sit around and have a beer and talk. Like, that's it. Like, I don't need more than that. If I can eat, go on vacation once in a while, my kids are taken care of, and I can hang out with people like that, that's it,
Yeah, that's awesome.
And as far as a job, like, I just love the meeting of people. It doesn't need to be a lot more than that, but I think as I see my role moving forward in the future, this is kind of going into a question that I'd seen on your thing, was I think I want to be more involved in the culture of our whole organization. I've seen the value that these stories have for me as an employee. And I did a LinkedIn post about this last week, but I think I'm learning to see that the hidden value of a testimonial type video is that I, as an employee of the company, learn the story of one of my customers. And what that does is it makes me 10 times more invested in the product and making sure that what we're making is a good product. Because now I know Joe and Tina and their business, and I want them to succeed because my name, my product is in their hands, and I want that to help them, you know? And so as I go out and I meet these folks, I come back and I want that same, I want to see more of that same spirit in our organization as a whole, where you've got guys and girls on the line who maybe have never talked to a customer, never met a customer, who maybe have never even seen the machine run that they work on. You know, they just weld the same part every day. They've never seen what the finished product can do. I'm just learning how being connected to the customer makes me want to do the best that I can in my daily work. And thinking about how I can help spread that spirit to the rest of our employees.
It's really cool.
That's maybe a next step for me.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. You mentioned that you're a father.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's no doubt that that's important work.
Absolutely.
How does being a dad and the way that you've had to carry those responsibilities, how does that carry over into work, and how does what your responsibilities at work come back to being a good dad?
Yeah. I mean, I tell my girls almost every night, that being their dad is my best job, like my favorite job. It's hands down. I mean, I'm divorced and have been since the girls were, I think, 5 and 7, which, I mean, divorce sucks and it's not what you ever want. But like, if there's one thing that made me a better dad, it was being divorced and having my kids half time, just being so completely aware that this week is my time with them and that this is the chance I have to like pour into them, just made me so much more cognizant of every moment that I get to spend with them. Being
more intentional.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like there is no wasted time with them. And that is something that has been part of my life from that moment to now. Like I am not going to waste time with my daughters. I am not just going to sit there on my phone while they're sitting across from me. Like no way am I going to do that. I'm not going to see them next week much. Like this is my time to be with them. And so in that regard, the work is secondary. It allows me to provide for them. It allows me to, make sure we got plenty of food in the house. I think it's really good that they see me doing something that I love. They talk about that a lot. I think they don't know a lot of adults that really love their job and their work.
They probably don't.
Yeah. So to just be an example of somebody who found something that he really loves to do, to know that you can find work that's meaningful to you. Yeah. I don't know if that answers the question, but
I think it was a great answer regardless. So
yeah.
That's super cool. TJ, got anything on your mind?
Yeah, I did have a question. Rob, I know that fitness is a big part of your life as well.
Yeah.
If I'm correct there. Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit about that, just how that...
This tree into this
Not like that, but yeah, I know that. Am I correct that you have like a level of certification as well with weightlifting and things like that? So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so you mentioned how when you were working in the oil fields, you'd come home from work and you'd play guitar and work out. When I got divorced, on the weeks I didn't have my kids, I worked on cars and worked out. So
we'll need to talk about what kind of cars, but we'll finish up the fitness question. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So I got super into CrossFit for a while when I was newly divorced. I just loved the intensity of it. I loved the competitive aspect of it. I loved the fact that every workout was different. Yeah, for sure. It's always a class environment. You're meeting people. There's competitions that you can go to. It's giving you a little bit of that itch, like the competitive itch, that.
Yep.
Oh, that was 10 years ago. I mean, I had been through high school. I mean, I lifted weights in high school. I played football, but coming out of that early in college, I wanted to look strong to attract a mate. But then being, in early marriage and then having kids, like that just kind of goes away, especially with young kids at home. Shout out to all the dads trying to hold it down with young kids at home. There's just a time in life when like you just can't do everything you want to do. But so I got pretty skinny up until my divorce. But then I had all this time on my hands, and I knew if I didn't want to just sit at home for a week and miss my daughters all week long, I knew that I would. So I needed something to fill my time.
Got to do something.
And so got into CrossFit. Then weightlifting, like Olympic weightlifting, snatches and clean and jerks are a big part of CrossFit. And decided that I wasn't that great at CrossFit because I don't like suffering so much, like the breathing really hard. So the progression of a lot of CrossFitters is you start CrossFit and then you switch to weightlifting because it's cooler and it doesn't hurt as much. So I got into Olympic weightlifting and trained that intensely hard for probably 5 years. I mean, like multiple hours a day, Morey Courts in Mount Pleasant. For sure. But people saw me and were like, dude, you're really good at this. I had some people that would watch me lift and be like, oh, you could be really good at this. So I didn't start that till I was probably like 35. And then
an old man.
And this is again, like we talked, like just start now.
Just
like,
do it, man.
There is no point in your life when you can't just start over. I don't think, like, especially to somebody who's in their 20s, you try something, fail, try something, fail, try something, fail. You got so much time. There's no point when it's just too late. If you want to learn to play guitar at 40 years old, do it. You could get really good if you put in a little bit of work.
That's true.
So that just kind of became an obsession for me. And I had a great group of younger guys that kind of I attracted to myself that would see me lifting and wanted to lift and would want some pointers. So we had this, by the time I stopped, we had probably a group of 6 folks that would be at Morey Courts every night of the week for a couple hours, just slamming bars and lifting heavy weights. And I started competing at that, lifted at the Michigan State Championships and was set to compete at the national championships, the masters category, which is like 35 and up.
Sure.
In Florida, right as COVID hit. And then that got canceled. Oh. And then gyms closed and all my friends moved away or went to grad school and things. And that's really hard to keep training that intensely when you don't have somebody else to train with.
Yeah.
So had to let that go because it's really hard to come into the gym by yourself, lift that heavy. And then my knees started bugging me a little bit. And like to be lifting at 70%, feeling like 70% all the time just becomes a little bit difficult to maintain. So rather than give that up, I think something that's good about me is that I can switch the thing that I care about as long as I can find something in it that's like intriguing.
Need that outlet.
I need that outlet and I need that idea of progression, Yep. So that for weightlifting, that idea of progression was weight on the bar, like just more work. Like that's something I can shoot for. That's something that's keeping me up at night. Something that's making me watch videos. It's something that's changing the way that I eat, changing the way that I supplement. Chasing that number on the bar was, something that was really incentivizing for me. So then I couldn't do that anymore. I'm like, but I need something. I need to be able to do that. So then just bodybuilding style training came in, and so that's just getting big, getting strong, that sort of thing has kind of since been the thing. But it's something I look forward to every day. It's like the thing I want to do when I get out of work. I train after work, which is weird, but it's me.
Are you just morning or late?
I am not a morning person at all. I'm an artist. So I don't feel bad about that. I could sleep till noon every day, and I could stay up till 2 a.m. But I train after work. And I love it. It's what I look forward to doing. I grab my Ghost energy drink at the gas station in Wynn, and I head home, put on my gym clothes, and head over to Planet and just start slamming the stacks. So
they don't come over and tap you on the shoulder like, sir.
Well, I've become really good friends with all the folks at Planet Fitness in Mount Pleasant, which is the best Planet Fitness in the country. I've been to Planet Fitnesses all over this country. Mount Pleasant's got the nicest people, hands down, of any Planet Fitness I've been to in America. So
yeah,
and I'm serious about that.
No, but it's just like it's like you say. I mean, like get after if you feel like you need to do it, just go do it.
Yep.
And also, I mean, like talking about being a dad and like or a mom or whatever. I mean, you have kids enter your life.
Yep.
I would say to my brother, I'm like, just wait
Yeah.
because the brakes will come on and they're going to come on hard.
Yeah.
And you can't even believe it.
Yeah.
You just gotta kind of figure it out. I try to maintain a adequate workout routine,
Yeah.
but I would love to do it after work.
Yeah.
Actually, oh my gosh, for a little while I was structuring my day where I could take like 2 hours in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Because I would get to work very, very early.
Yeah.
And I would have like 2 hours in the afternoon where I could go and exercise, and that was a great time of day. Now I am in this, my alarm goes off at 3:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I wake up, take a pre-workout. I'm out there at 4:30 and I'm in
sounds so gross.
and I'm in it is gross. Yeah. I call it the sweatshop. It's like, and that's like, it is the most like, primitive, like there's almost nothing out there. There's like a small radio and a treadmill and a bike and just like a little bit of weights. And it's like, I don't have like heavy weights.
Yeah.
So instead, I
lift them a million times.
I just lift them a million times, and like you say that you don't like to suffer, and I'm just like, that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
And I'll like I could, yeah. That's like, if I had like one skill, I think that I would point to, it's that I can just, if it's too hard for you, it's okay for me.
Yeah.
And well, if I didn't run like, you can't say run like a girl. You can't say run like a girl, and I shouldn't, because like
my daughter's a very good runner. She's
I was going to say,
than
my 9-year-old son runs like his dad, and that's not a great thing to say. And my 7-year-old daughter runs like the wind. So yeah, but I don't have the bone structure, I think, to be a good runner.
Your proportions are off.
Yeah, they're yeah. So no, but yeah, I mean, but it's. Yeah, you just got to find what works.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I agree. I actually do. It's just, it is this little routine of like work hard, reward.
Yeah.
There's nothing like having that post workout.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is my milkshake of the day.
Yeah.
It's great. But also, just to be able to actually like feel good.
Yep. And be active. And with I had my kids pretty young, so they're already teenagers, but like, to be able to know that I can still do anything that they want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been a big backpacking family their entire life. And I think that's part of if I had an advice to dads, it's like, just take your kids with you. Like, do it with your kids. My girls love working out because they've worked out with me. I was taking them into gyms before they were allowed. Like, they have stories of getting kicked out of gyms because I'm like in there training with them, and of course the person goes over. It's not safe for them.
They
to
get
be in
lonely
here. Oh my gosh.
standing outside for like the 15 minutes
Thankfully,
while you finished up.
Oh my gosh! So they've been
Gets
training
cold
with
out
me
there.
since they were little. My daughter competed at the Michigan weightlifting state championships because she did that.
Dude.
We backpack all the time. Like, kids can do a lot, and it's just
They can.
It's so much
It's
fun
amazing.
when you put that when you just like lead by example. When they're young, it's just so rewarding to be able to do that stuff with them as they're older, more as a peer. So, but that time does come back around. You will get your time back. But I think something you said is super important, just finding what works. I think that we look, especially in the social media age we're in, where we're just bombarded with people who are claiming to be experts on topics. And because genetically they look really fit and,
Sure.
like whatever they get to work out for a living, we just trust that their way of doing something is the only or best way to do it. Like, if you're a morning person and you like working out in the morning, do it. If that doesn't work for you, don't do that. You don't.
If you're not a morning person, but that's the only time you can do it,
right,
do it.
do it. Yes. Yeah. You just do what works. Find a way to make it work, and be okay that you're going to be different than somebody else. Somebody else might judge that their way of doing it is better. Just find what works for you. There's a million ways to skin a cat. Right?
Yeah.
That's the saying.
Yeah.
But finding what works for you is the most important thing, because if it doesn't work for you, if you're trying to make yourself fit in somebody else's box, the only magic ingredient, which is consistency, will evade you, because, but if you can find a way that works,
because you just won't do it.
right. You just won't do it, but you've got to find something that works for you, because that's the only way you'll do something consistently, I think. So I've found ways of making my life work for me. And
Yeah. in fitness and being a good dad and
Yep.
being a musician and
Yep.
and doing well at your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just make it happen.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I think that you got one more, TJ. All right.
Yeah, one last one for Rob.
Yeah.
We had talked about before you came on just the idea of maybe getting someone's perspective. And I think your perspective would be very interesting. Someone who's gone all over the country,
Mhm.
seen countless people who probably would be categorized as American workers, if you
Mhm.
will. I know that looks very different. There's an infinite amount of jobs, but in your perspective, or if you had to think about the term American worker or just someone who's a worker as a whole and someone who provides and builds or whatever it is,
Mhm.
how would you describe that, I guess, from all the experiences you've had over the last 5 years or even before that?
Sure. I think what that phrase brings to my mind is just the diversity of what it takes to make the world go. You drive down the highway to your one job, but the reason you can drive down the highway to your one job is because a million other people have done their jobs, and it really does take everybody. And I think that when I think about that makes me really grateful for everybody. It makes me want to honor and value every single person that's working, from the person who would be most likely to be overlooked to the person who, is getting praise all the time. It just takes I think that there's so much room to just allow for and give recognition to everybody that's doing something. I mean, I think everybody deserves to feel that their work is important and matters. And yeah, it takes a lot to make the world go. And I'm really grateful that there are a lot of people who aren't just like me. Because if everybody's like me, not a lot would get done. I can tell you that. There'd be a lot of hanging out. There'd be a lot of
but the music
good
would be
beer
awesome.
being drunk. There'd be some cool videos, but the lights probably wouldn't turn on.
Yeah.
So I'm glad everybody's not like me, and I'm glad there are people that like to do different things than me. So that's what I think of.
It is awesome.
There is one question that you had that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
We can edit it back. You can edit it in, or you can leave it out. It was the question about. So it was what are your thoughts on how companies or individuals within these skilled trades could be utilizing marketing and media today? Is there anything they should watch out for? So I think obviously we're seeing more and more with the advent of like the dirt world, like Aaron Witt, all that stuff, Build Witt, all those guys.
What are you talking about?
Okay, so it's construction social media, dude, media company, super big in excavating, dirt moving world.
This is a construction excavating dirt moving company with
No, this is a guy who started this media company to market those companies.
Oh, okay.
Taking that world by storm, giant conferences hosted by Ariat Boots, and people come from all over the country to.
Yeah.
So,
I think I'm getting it.
yeah.
Yes.
So, has started this company in Nashville, Tennessee. And I think we're seeing a lot more blue collar type of companies understand the value of social media, or at least perceive that there might be some there. And I think that's undeniably true. I think that more and more people obviously are on this media. The people that these companies, particularly like folks that are potential employees, are on social media, are learning about different companies from social media. I think it's important for people to have a presence. I think the one thing that I would say is my hold on yellow light sort of thing is that you can market something way beyond what it actually is. I think there's a danger in getting something out there too much when the product itself isn't that good yet.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what you took me around a tour of the plant. Like, you guys pay attention to every detail. Your work is undeniably good. So you're free now to market the crap out of your business, right? Because that the base product is something you would gladly sign your name on every one of those tires. And your employees do. They wear your branding everywhere they go because they're proud.
We literally do it.
They're proud of what they make. They believe in what they make. They have an opinion that what they make is better than what everybody else makes, and they've got the experience to back it up. So market the crap out of it, But I think there are some people who are like, we need to have social media. We need to go viral. We need to be doing video, et cetera, et cetera. But their product sucks, or their processes are sucking. Their quality is not that great, or their employees are really unhappy. I think there's until that stuff is like rock solid, I don't know how much it benefits you to get onto social media,
Yeah.
Because the downside is that's now a bunch of stuff that you've now got 100 outlets for disgruntled customers to tell the world their bad opinion of your service.
Yeah.
They can go now onto Instagram and talk about the bad service they receive from you. They can go onto TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and leave awful comments because your product sucks.
Yeah.
Plus, you're doing this bait and switch with all your new potential customers. You're making yourself look awesome. They try you out, and your service sucks, your product sucks. They're never going to come back to you again, or it's going to be a long time before they do. So that's just the one thing that I think in my mind I see as the whoa, hold on, slow down, make sure that what you're marketing is worth putting out there to the world.
Well, that's good advertising. It doesn't. What that does is it brings attention.
Right.
That's what it does. It brings attention to your brand, to your company, to your product.
Right.
And yeah, if you don't have those things buttoned down,
right,
then all you're doing is bringing attention to something that's not really that good.
Right.
And yeah, and I think about what we're doing as a company, and growing, like with the retread that we make. That's something that we make right here. We've been doing it for a really long time. And we've got people that have worked in that retread plant for 20 plus years. And we can send that all out throughout the state of Michigan, whether that retreaded tire stays in Alma or it goes to Gaylord, or it somehow is on a bus that makes its way down to Savannah, Georgia. It's always there, right? The quality is always following it wherever it goes, because it was made here, it was done.
Right.
That's it. But yeah, like when if we buy another shop or buy another company, and it's like, we really want to get, we want to hit Google ads, and we want to do this and we want to do that. But sometimes we need to restrain ourselves a little bit. We want those sales. We want to do this. We want to get in front of these customers, and we want to help solve their problem. But we have to be realistic and say, are we ready to solve the problem?
Right.
Because just because we bought the place, right, and we throw Alma Tire up on the board,
right, the culture is not there yet.
It's not Alma Tire yet.
Right.
It's not Alma Tire yet. And, and that has been something that has been, it's hard, because building a good culture is hard.
It's hard. It takes time.
Hard work, and it takes time. And you've got to not only treat these people right, but they have to actually buy into it, and they have to see it.
Right.
Because otherwise, if you're a tire tech down in Detroit and you're like, hey man, we're different, they're like, sure.
Right. Prove it.
Yeah. Yep. So, but you really need to have their buy-in to make sure that they're doing things the way that you tell them. This has really got to be done this way.
Yeah.
It's got to be done better. It's, we need to take care of the customer in this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. And the marketing side of a company is so important.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's a very, very powerful tool.
Right.
And to apply that tool when you're not really ready, or when things aren't in line, it can be a negative thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, you make all this awesome work.
Yep.
You said you're on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Where can people find you to see some of your work?
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn, Rob Brown, Bandit Industries. That's my main social media. I found that to be the most valuable social media by far. Just making like meaningful connections with people that do similar work, whatever your field of work. I think that LinkedIn is a very, very valuable tool. I post a lot of my stuff there. Then Bandit's YouTube page, if you just Google Bandit Chippers or put Bandit Chippers into YouTube and go to our page, you'll see all the content that's there that I've made. Those are the main two.
Okay. Awesome. I have been a big LinkedIn denier.
Yeah.
Or I don't know what you'd say. I've always kind of had this little bit of aversion to social media, but
sure.
But I will say, here recently, I've been kind of dipping my toes into the LinkedIn just a little bit more.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because I've seen there's some people within Alma Tire that do use LinkedIn, and they'll reference this. They're like, oh yeah, because of this, whatever. And I'm like, oh
yeah,
maybe there's a little more to that. So another good testimonial from someone that knows. So maybe I'll have to get a little more.
Give it a shot.
Yeah. Get out
Spend
there.
a month on
just do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Put yourself out there. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Again, man, I really appreciate this. Really appreciate you coming by, getting to know you. Yeah. And thank you for everything you do.
That's all we've got for you today. We really hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you want any other information about our guest, check out the links in the description below. As always, we're on a journey to glorify the American worker, and we hope to see you out there.